Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone. My name is Saman Habibi with the DR Real Estate Group, and today we're going to be making a video for first-time home buyers. This is a video on what you should do if you're a first-time home buyer looking to get into the market. Guys, as a reality check, if you're a first-time home buyer, there is a lot of inventory in the market right now, which puts all the power in the buyer's hand. So as a buyer right now, because there's so much inventory, you have the option to be very selective with what you're purchasing. You have the option to be very secure in your purchase by having an inspection clause, a financing clause, and essentially being able to take your time as much as you like. But before we get there, before we get to making a purchase, what are some steps that you have to make in order to make sure you are ready for this purchase? Now, having these conversations often with my team and our group here, oftentimes what we hear from others is that the first step as a first-time home buyer that you should be taking is to connect with a mortgage broker, which is true. However, I think there's one step prior to going a mortgage broker, and that step to me is a very formal process, but there's also a very informal process to take. The more formal process would be to connect with a money coach. And why do we say this? Well, typically a money coach will take a look at your assets, your scenario, and determine if you're doing everything correctly in order to achieve a goal. So when you meet with a money coach, you say, my goal is to purchase a home in the next 12 to 24 months. Well, then they'll say, okay, perfect. Let's take a look at your income. Let's take a look at your savings. Let's take a look at your expenses. Let's take a look at your credit, and let's determine if you're on the right path to get there. And if you're on the right path, then you can proceed to the next step of going and meeting with a mortgage broker to determine what you're qualified for. However, if you're not ready yet, if you don't have enough income, if your expenses are too high, if you don't have the right amount of savings, if your credit score is not good enough, then there's no point of even connecting with a mortgage broker if you want to stay with a traditional bank. You can go to a mortgage broker and you can go to an alternative lender. However, that is going to come at a cost, and it's going to cost you significantly more to get into the real estate market. So we spoke about the formal process of meeting with a money coach, but of course, sitting down with a money coach, although you have their expertise, there's some sort of cost involved there as well. If you want to take the more informal process of looking over your finances, there are a lot of resources online where you can, hop on YouTube, watch another video on how to prepare for this. You can have some conversations with, friends and family who have gone into the market. But if you prefer to do it on your own, the most important part of this process is making sure that your income and your debt levels are reasonable. So typically when you go to a bank, the bank is going to want to look at your income and your expenses, and they want to make sure that your total income versus expenses, your total expenses don't exceed 50% of the income that you're generating. And what you want to do is if you want to do this analysis on your own, you have to ensure that your expenses will also include your expenses of owning a home. So typically, you have your daily and your living expenses, you have food, you have groceries, you have gas, and so on. But what you have to do is you have to add in the expense to owning this home and operating this home. So, what you can do is you can create a scenario of you purchasing, let's say, a home for $800,000. What are what's your mortgage payments? What's your property tax payments? What's your insurance payments? And what are your utilities and hydro payments? So you take all your expenses and you want to make sure that that expense does not exceed 50% of your total income. And if you're able to do that exercise and it makes sense, then that means that you are on a right path. The other thing you want to make sure you address is your credit score. Okay, so there are different websites where you can go on and become a member to be able to have access to your credit. The most formal ones in Canada are Equifax and TransUnion. You are able to sign up with these people. There is a cost associated with it. However, you'll have access to your credit. You'll be able to see what your credit score is now, and you'll be able to monitor it on a monthly basis. There are other institutions that do this as well. There's a company called Borrowwell, which allows you to monitor your credit score, and also they'll give you recommendations on what you can do to improve your credit score. You want to make sure that your credit score, once you have access to it, you want to make sure that all the information on your credit score is correct and up to date, such as where you live, your social insurance number, and so on. You also want to make sure that you review your credit score and make sure that all the debt that is recorded there is in fact your debt. Believe it or not, there are instances where there are errors on the credit score. And if there are errors or if there's items on there that don't belong to you, then you can call the credit companies and dispute it, and they'll remove it from your credit report and determine if this will have a positive impact on your credit score. And lastly, you want to know what your credit score is. So you want to maintain a minimum 680 score, but of course, the higher the better. But guys, keep in mind, you don't need to kill yourself by having a perfect credit score. The banks view your credit score, anything above 680, 700, as a good credit score. So as a result, you just want to make sure you don't drop below, that threshold of 680, 650. And lastly, guys, you want to make sure that all your taxes are paid on a personal level, and if you're self-employed, on a self-employed basis as well. So if you're self-employed, you want to make sure your HST, your corporate, and your personal taxes are always paid before you go and meet a mortgage broker to have a conversation about buying a home. So we've spoken about what you need to do before going and seeing a mortgage broker, which is making sure that all your ducks are in a row and you're ready to make a purchase and get into the market. So once you're prepared and you go meet with a mortgage broker will tell you what you qualify for. If you guys need recommendations on some reputable mortgage brokers in the area, please reach out to me and I can definitely make a recommendation. Once you meet with the mortgage broker will essentially determine what you qualify for, what your buying power is. They will give you a range of what you can purchase. And once you have that range, you want to make sure that you connect with a real estate expert who can guide you and tell you, what are some of these areas where you can achieve the budget that you're working with. And you always want to make sure that you're working with a local expert, someone who knows the area that you're going to be shopping in, because there are a lot of moving parts in real estate right now. There's constant change in different markets. There's new developments happening, which you as an end user may not be aware of, but a local real estate expert may be aware of if they're studying the market. And these might be pieces of information that may help and guide you in making that decision. So once you've met with a mortgage broker, connect with a local real estate expert, and now you're ready to go out and make a purchase. All right, guys, and that's all for today. Thank you for watching yet another video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up if you can. And if you've got any questions, please drop them in the question section below and I'll address them directly. And if you like all my contact information are in the show notes below, including my calendar link. And what you can do is scroll down, click on my calendar link and book a one-on-one call with me, and we can talk about your personal real estate scenario.